Everybody get up, it's time to slam now. We got the real jam going down. Welcome to the Space Jam. Here's your chance, do your dance at the Space Jam. Alright.
What's up? It's your boy Daquan back in here again, and welcome to the jam. So today we are making Slam do a whole lot of work, and there are a few things to keep in mind when it comes to Slam, and we're going to dive right into it and basically explain how we got from this amount of damage to clearing the Maliwan takedown on Mayhem 4 true takedown mode. Let's hop right into it. So there are a couple different artifacts that you can utilize in order to enhance your Slam. One of them being the spark plug, other one being rockets, and the other one being different puddles they can use in order to make your Slam do a nice little AoE effect and hit enemies over time. All of these have a cool little spot, but really the spark plug is the thing that really shines the most. The Tesla coils, or the sparks from the spark plug, can actually crit naturally when you end up hitting the enemies, but they don't proc Megavore. And then another thing to keep in mind is that the rockets are the same situation. They can crit naturally, but they do not proc Megavore. So we come to a point where they're not really the greatest things in the world. They don't really do a whole lot of damage by themselves, but we are utilizing a cool little trick with Megavore in conjunction with Action Skill and Elements to allow us to do a whole lot of work with these different tools. So all of the ASC elements can actually crit separately from the entity that caused them to hit the enemy. So what that means is hitting with Rakks, which don't crit, the ASCs on the Rakks will actually crit for you due to the bonus elements. So that is what we're utilizing inside of this. We're utilizing these so that way our Slams can actually, well, they're not critting, but the ASCs are critting, which is going to allow us to get very, very big hits. And utilizing our critical modifier coming from the Unforgiven, we're able to scale up the amount of damage that we're doing with these crits to very, very, very high amounts. And with that, we're slamming and jabbing. One of the main important things that you're going to want inside this build is a gun with a high critical damage modifier. The Unforgiven is the one that has the highest. The love drill is decent as well. I've seen it above 300%, and that's part of the DLC. I haven't seen it go up to 400% at all, but it is a cool alternative to it. There are a couple of more pretty good critical hit damage guns inside of there, but once again, the Unforgiven is the best of the best when it comes to this. So utilizing this, we're able to get our slams to do very, very, very high amounts of damage. The anoint that you're actually going to want for this thing are going to be lifesteal, melee, and then Rakk attack is a cool one to have if you want your grenades to do more damage. And by grenades, I just mean your Hunter Seeker. Hunter Seeker acts pretty weird when it comes to the grenade world, and it is the only grenade that can actually proc lifesteal, as well as the only grenade that can actually proc Rakk attack. It doesn't get 100% weapon damage ASC. It doesn't get a lot of other things, and it is an oddity, to say the least. But we have a whole video and like a whole build for that inside of the description for the people that are unfamiliar with the way that thing works. But Trick Unforgiven, Rakk attack is going to allow your grenades to hit very, very, very hard, or your Hunter Seeker to hit very hard specifically. And then Lifesteal on your Hunter Seekers is going to be able to keep you up pretty decently. Thing to keep in mind is that this is a slam build and we're running around on FLAK. And so we don't have the craziest sustain in the world. So you are going to go down in this build, 100%. You're going to go down inside this build. You will feel good inside of some different spots, but disclaimer, we're slamming. We're slamming. So you're going to go down 100%. So for your third and fourth slot, you can run whatever you want. Pick your favorite gun that is relatively good, that will be able to pick you up or get you out of certain situations. Brainstormer is always good. Maggie, Lil Yeety, Ion Cannon is still pretty decent. Skull Masher, which is new, is pretty good. Unseen Threat is a threat that is actually seen because, you know, people haven't. But Unseen Threat is very good. There's a massive list of really good guns that can work inside this setup and just work for FLAK in general. So just pick your favorite ones. You do need one that's going to be able to pick you up if you do end up going down, which is once again going to happen. Your Hunter Seekers are going to be good at picking you up, and so is your Slam Artifact. There are a couple of Slam Artifacts that can do pretty decent. I'll go ahead and run through these things. So one of them actually is going to be a Knife Drain Cosmic Crater. That's going to be decent. It's going to allow you to sustain a pretty decent little amount. And then the slam damage with the puddle in conjunction with the crits that you're getting from the ASCs and on top of Megavore, you're hitting decently. It's not really the greatest thing in the world. It's very okay damage is what I would say. It's very okay with Cosmic Crater along with Knife Drain. For the other options is Knife Drain Launch Pad. It is, once again, very decent. Not really the greatest thing in the world. Cool thing that you can do is utilize Spark Plug and Launch Pad, and you'll get 2 sets of Launch Pad rockets coming out, and it'll be pretty decent damage. And you'll get the Spark Plug coming out, which is going to do very, very, very good amounts of DPS. And then our last option, which is the best option, is going to be the Spark Plug Auto Idle. So Spark Plug by itself is the best slam artifact that we were able to find and play around with inside of this build. And then the Auto Idle portion, as long as you're killing enemies, you're going to get that HP back. So that is fantastic. Some of the things that end up boosting up the Spark Plug chains, if you will, are going to be the elemental based damage, such as shock, such as corrosive damage if you have a corrosive ASC, and then you'll be able to regenerate HP as well pretty good if you do have one that has a regeneration substat. In terms of things like melee damage, in terms of AoE damage, and some of the other roles that may seem like they should work for the Spark Plug, they actually didn't end up boosting it up. And so there's really not that much of a use for it in terms of getting the most value out of a quality artifact. So you want to find something along the lines of what you see here that will allow you to do pretty good DPS. Damage reduction is cool. We don't have much inside this build in terms of the skill tree, so flat damage reduction will also be relatively decent. So for our class mod, we're rocking the Rakk pack. We're getting a very good general damage bonus from pack tactics, and then head count is helping us now because they actually fixed it, thankfully. The head count is allowing us to get our cooldown back faster by throwing out our Hunter Seekers, which means that we're going to be able to spam those out a little bit more, get some more lifesteal and sustain from the Rakks while we are keeping our noise up 100% of the time, which is really the main point of this build. Keep the noise up so that way they're able to crit and do big amounts of work. And then the substat that you really want to go ahead and find is going to be the Jacob's Weapon critical damage. But this is important because that 51% is not additive, so you're not going to get from 432 to 483, you're actually going to get well above 600% when you start utilizing that Jacob's critical weapon damage, and that is going to make your ASCs hit very, very hard. And so we went ahead and tacked on some more critical damage, which is actually going to end up helping out the slam, which is fantastic. Now, for the last roll, max HP is cool. HP regeneration is fantastic. It's going to help you stay alive a decent amount. A lot of the things don't end up helping out the Hunter Seekers nor the slam. Basically the same situation with the artifact in terms of substats. So melee damage and all that stuff actually didn't end up helping out. So these were some of the best rolls. Really, if you find a really good Cosmic Stalker with Jacob's weapon critical damage, you can just run through with that. Bounty Hunter is also a pretty decent class mod they can play around with, and this thing will allow you to proc your hunt kill skills. And then as long as you have that Jacob's weapon critical damage, that's really your biggest modifier. Just find one with just this one thing and you will get a gigantic boost in DPS that you're dealing. For our shield, the best shield for this setup, from running around with it, from playing around with the Transformer, Stopgap, Old God, and a bunch of the other options, is actually the Rico shield. Now this Rico shield is part of the DLC Moxie's Heist, so you will need to go ahead and play around with that in order to get this shield. And this thing just has a bunch of reflection, and we're just running into the enemies head on. If you are running the Rakk attack variation, I'll talk about the fadeaway variation of this build in a second, but the Rakk attack variation of this build, you're just running into enemies. So you need as much damage mitigation as possible, and this gives you a ton. Works out very, very well. This is definitely the recommended shield when it comes to just staying alive, really. This is really the recommended shield when it comes to staying alive for this particular build. One of the key things I want to mention about the Hunter Seeker is that if you are running one with corrosive, fire, shock, radiation, in terms of the element on the Hunter Seeker itself, it is very possible that it will end up killing you. The Hunter Seekers hit very, very, very hard when they end up exploding. So cryo or even kinetic would be better options for keeping you alive, because the Hunter Seekers fly towards the target and you're running at the targets because they're slamming. So it really is really odd blowing yourself up. And it will happen often if you are running corrosive, especially because that thing hits excessively hard and those dots really, really, really hurt. One cool thing that you can actually do is animation cancel your slam. So basically what you're doing is slamming in your emote and then slamming again. But the typical flow looks like this of slamming. And then when you animation cancel the right way, it should look something like this. So with this build, there are a couple of different variations that you can play around with. I'll show two of the different trees that Ritor and I actually like, and you can mix it up a little bit. A few things you can end up changing up and see what you like a little bit better, especially if you're adding in some specific guns that might work a little bit better with some points rearranged a little bit. But the main idea behind this tree is to grab as many things that boost up just damage in general and aren't specific to like gun damage. That way you're actually boosting up the Hunter Seekers as well as boosting up the different things such as the slam that you're actually doing and those ASCs. One key thing to keep in mind is that gun damage actually doesn't end up boosting up Hunter Seeker gun damage for whatever reason. For our build, we have Interplanetary Stalker at 5. That's going to give us a nice damage increase. Hunter's Eye, once again, that is critical damage as well as armor damage, so that is just general damage. Head count is good for getting our cooldown back, which means that we're going to have more racks out, better sustain, more DPS coming out of those racks, as well as keeping our annoyance up 100% of the time. You can put points into Leave No Trace from Ambush Predator if you want, or just swap some points around so that way you're able to get more value out of your guns if you want to go ahead and utilize those. So Ambush Predator is going to help out your grenades a good bit because you need to stay in a general radius away from enemies to really capitalize on this thing. You can slam and like run away pretty much. That'll work out pretty decently. And you're not going to run towards a group of enemies. So Ambush Predator can be utilized inside this build setup, especially with your grenades. It's going to give it a big damage increase. tvhm really doesn't have any place inside this build if you're not running something that has a lower projectile count, and it doesn't apply to your Hunter Seekers or your slam at all in any way. Big game, going to end up helping out your different hunter kill skills and boosting up the damage of those. Most dangerous game, it's really for that critical hit damage, and then for whenever you are utilizing your guns, you're able to benefit from this. Most dangerous game, Galactic Shadow, more critical hit damage. And then Megavore is allowing us to get our ASCs to crit separately. So we're getting, this is one of the most important things about this build setup. So inside of green, we have self-repairing system, so that way we get some extra bulk. I like having self-repairing system with the 5 points, but these points are completely flexible. and you can mess around with that. We have our little fade set up on with our little pet fade. We're gonna go ahead and show some of that gameplay in a second and show you how you can just capitalize on that. Now for our blue, it is the same situation as before, where we're just looking for general damage increases. Gun damage from here doesn't really help out too much. Velocity really doesn't help out. 1 point of heat by, so that way those reflections are helping our pet get his stacks of frenzy up, because they end up proccing that. Frenzy, really good general damage increase. Who rescued who, good for HP regeneration and keeping our pet alive. No poison to any of these. This is an extra safeguard, which is pretty good. And then pack tactics that maxed out is going to have a lot of damage added to it, just general damage, as well as a lot of HP. That way you're going to be able to sustain very aggressively and stay alive at a pretty good rate. But as a disclaimer, once again, you're going to go down inside this build because we are slamming and jamming. For the Rakk attack variation, we have our points into Falconer's Feast as well as FLAK and Load. Falconer's Feast is going to give us a ton of sustain, and then FLAK and Load is going to increase the amount of racks that we're throwing out. This in conjunction with the Rakk Pack class mod is going to allow us to sustain very aggressively, because we're getting out 12 different racks, which is a gigantic amount of bats hitting the enemies. And that's basically the layout when it comes to Rakk. For fade, once again, just throw on the fade. We don't put on Gorillas in the Mist because we want our duration for our fade away to be as long as possible. Persistent Hunter is going to help that out. And as long as we're not shooting, we're going to be able to just keep on spamming our slam and doing a lot of work. So let's go ahead and hop into some of the gameplay mechanics of it right after we look at this gardening rank that I almost forgot about, which is very important, because you can't do this build unless you have Come On and Slam. If you don't have Come On and Slam, it's going to be clunky, and you won't be able just to spam slam. You need this right here. This helps out as well as Harmageddon is pretty cool, but Come On and Slam is the big part of this build, and I would recommend you having your guarding ranks filled out, or at least having Come On and Slam before you end up playing this build. But let's go ahead and hop into some gameplay of this build, show you guys how this thing functions and how this thing plays inside a true Maliwan takedown. Mayhem 4, and yeah, get into it. So I'll show you guys the fade version real quick first, since I've been talking about it. This is on True Takedown. Now, what I'm utilizing inside of here is a shocking AAA that has Rakk Attack Extra Charge on it. That Rakk Attack Extra Charge, when the magazine size does pop up, I can swap back. And I'll have my annoyance from my shield and my grenade on. And now I can just slam and do a whole lot of damage with this thing. You see that the annoyance wore off, so I'm swapping and swapping back, and you can just invisible spam, and it's actually pretty hilarious. It's actually super hilarious. I'm gonna show you the Kraken portion, and then we're gonna swap over to the Rakk attack so that way you guys can see that. Well, we're literally invisible. Still doing the same situation. Rakk attack extra charge. Setting up a few of these spark plugs. And then this is at a weird slant, so you kind of have to play around it a little bit. Throwing out our Hunter Seekers right here so that way we get our head count procs, we'll get our fadeaway back. And we're going to end up killing off the Kraken. It's okay, running as fade is not as smooth, and you can't like micromanage the Hunter Seekers as well. And so you'll see the Rakk attack, and it's going to end up clearing out the Kraken and clearing everything much smoother. And that's what we're going to have for the rest of this video. So now we're out here with the Rakk attack. We attack and racking and slamming at the same time. We're doing work, breaking out the animation cancel. We should end up going down somewhere in this clip, but we're doing pretty good right now. If you have enough of the Mitosis Hunter Seekers out, you should be able to sustain. And as long as you kill the enemies fast enough, that auto idle is going to be crazy. Alright, I think a barrel actually took me out right here. That's actually what took me out, a barrel. Otherwise, pretty good. We're trying to run in here, get our little slam on. Make sure that our anoints are up, even if we do end up going down. We're sustaining okay, but I didn't throw enough 100 seekers out into the air right there to sustain me. But ended up going down. Doesn't really matter too much because we got right back up. And we pick up that loot. We're throwing out our 100 seekers. 100 seekers by themselves can hit the Valkyries and make them go to the next phase if you really want them to. But we are trying to prioritize slamming. And this is one of the reasons why the Rico shield is interesting. Sometimes it will not save your life. And this shows you kind of how bad the Unforgiven is at picking you back up. Right here I was messing around with the cure, so you know, that's just what we had inside the inventory. So your 100 seekers slam. If you can get out in front of the spawns of the enemies, you are actually in a super duper good spot. Got the slam off. Got another one. Right there, a few of those enemies ended up popping. The auto. He's going to end up walking over here. Set up some traps for homie. Hit him with the bop. And we're just gonna keep on slamming away. And this auto is working out super well. Alright, here we're actually going preemptively. Go right there. Bam, bam, everything nice and smooth. And so efficiency is the name of the game. There we go, baby. And now the Valks are gone. We're gonna farm these bad boys up. Let's hop over to the bridge. Now the bridge is actually pretty easy. Actually, this is one of the better setups for running the bridge, oddly enough, because there are a lot of enemies spawning at certain spots, and so you're just throwing these down and just moving, and then they chain really, really, really well. So bridge is very smooth with this. And those animation cancels looking clean. For right now, at least. These things are gonna get worse. But yeah, I overdid it right there, but no, it's whatever. But yeah, everything's just getting popped. Those enemies up in the air right now, 100 seekers can handle them, as well as the chains from our spark plug. And that's pretty much the situation. We're just slamming, but we're gonna keep on hitting these slams. And to be honest, you could just play Space Jam over this whole thing. It would have been completely fine. Didn't need any of this dialogue here. So we're just gonna kill all these homies here, and then there'll just be a typical Wotan kill, like the one that you seen at the beginning. But the one at the beginning, we were running level 53 gear and way worse stuff, so you guys should be in a much better situation. So, if you guys have any questions about anything, go ahead and let me know inside the comments below. Thank you for watching the video, and adios.